Before time was measured by clocks, warriors understood a deeper truth. Life is iron, and every dawn is a fire that either forges purpose or leaves rust behind. You were not born to drift through days like smoke. You were born to be hammered by discipline, shaped by pain, and sharpened by choice. This is the path of Bushido, where spirit outranks comfort, and Hagane no Ishi, the will of steel, decides who rises from the ashes. Each wasted hour is a crack in the blade. Each focused morning is a strike of the hammer. I speak to you directly, warrior of 2026, because your routine is your battlefield, your habits your armor, your mind your final weapon. Today, you choose whether to burn or be forged. Commit to this journey. Comment Samurai. Subscribe. And stand with a brotherhood and sisterhood who refuse decay and embrace discipline. Thank you for joining a community that tempers its soul daily, together in silence and strength. Keynotes: Dawn discipline, mind mastery, body rituals, purpose alignment. This moment marks your oath, awakening and beginning. Seed: I wake before the world remembers itself, when darkness still clings to the edges of thought and comfort whispers lies. Dawn is not gentle, it is a test, a silent judge that asks who you are before excuses are born. Rising early is choosing the forge over the bed, discipline over warmth, purpose over ease. In samurai tradition, the blade is shaped before battle, not during it. And the morning is where your spirit is tempered. Each step out of comfort is a strike of the hammer against weakness. Each breath in cold air, a reminder that growth demands friction. While others sleep, you claim time, and time is life itself. This hour is stolen back from distraction, reclaimed from decay. Dawn does not reward talent or intention. It rewards obedience to a higher standard. When you rise despite resistance, you teach the mind submission and the will authority. Comfort dulls the edge, but dawn sharpens it, slowly, relentlessly, until your days begin to obey you. This choice, repeated daily, builds an identity that no crisis can shatter. Because you have already defeated yourself before sunrise arrived and proved discipline stronger than desire. In silence, without witnesses or applause. Ever. Choosing dawn over comfort is declaring war on the part of you that seeks softness. The body protests, the mind negotiates, and every excuse becomes convincing at that hour. Yet this resistance is sacred, because it reveals where strength must be built. Samurai did not wait for motivation. They moved because duty commanded movement. When you rise early, you act without emotional permission, and this trains a deeper muscle than inspiration ever could. You learn that action creates feeling, not the other way around. The cold floor, the quiet room, the absence of praise strip life down to essentials. There is only breath, intention, and the next deliberate act. Over time, this practice rewires identity. You stop asking how you feel and start deciding who you are. Comfort makes life smaller by protecting you from discomfort, while dawn expands you by forcing confrontation. Every morning becomes a controlled hardship, a voluntary trial that hardens resolve. When real adversity arrives, it feels familiar, almost welcome, because you have rehearsed discipline daily while the world slept. This is how weakness is starved and character is fed, before the day demands payment from everyone who delayed the fight with themselves again at dawn. Dawn over comfort reshapes time itself, turning mornings into sacred ground. While others trade hours for distraction, you invest them into becoming harder to break. Early hours are honest. They expose priorities without noise. No one applauds you, no algorithm rewards you, and no audience validates the effort. This solitude is power. It teaches you to move without recognition, to work without witnesses, to improve without permission. Samurai trained when no enemy was present, understanding that unseen preparation decided visible victory. Rising early builds trust with yourself. and self-trust is unshakable armor. Each completed morning promise becomes proof that your word has weight. Slowly, confidence stops depending on outcomes and starts rooting itself in consistency. Comfort promises relief but delivers stagnation, while dawn promises nothing yet gives everything. The discipline of early rising spills into every area of life, sharpening focus, cleaning decisions, strengthening restraint. You begin to feel time differently, as something you command rather than chase. The mornings stop feeling like beginnings and start feeling like foundations, solid enough to carry whatever burden the day chooses to place upon you. This quiet power accumulates invisibly until others feel it without understanding its source or matching your discipline ever. Choosing dawn is also choosing to suffer cleanly, without chaos or self-pity. The suffering of discipline is sharp but brief, while the suffering of regret is dull and endless. Early rising trains you to accept discomfort without drama, to breathe through resistance instead of escaping it. This emotional control becomes spiritual strength. You stop fearing hard moments because you meet them daily on your own terms. In samurai philosophy, mastery begins with self-command, and the morning is the first territory to conquer. When you win the morning, the rest of the day feels less hostile. Your reactions slow, your standards rise, and distractions lose authority over you. Comfort weakens decision-making by rewarding delay, but dawn reinforces immediacy and clarity. You learn to act when it is hardest, not when it is convenient. This rewrites your relationship with pain, turning it from an enemy into a teacher. Over months, the identity shift becomes undeniable. You no longer see yourself as someone trying to change, but as someone who has changed through action. The mirror reflects resolve now, not excuses. And discipline becomes your natural posture, standing firm against temptation, fatigue, and fear. Every single morning, without negotiation, ever. Dawn over comfort is not about waking early alone. It is about choosing principle over impulse in all things. The morning simply reveals your hierarchy of values without mercy. If you can govern yourself when no one is watching, you can govern yourself anywhere. This habit becomes a compass, guiding decisions throughout the day. You eat with restraint, work with intensity, speak with intention, and rest without guilt. Early rising creates momentum that carries forward, making discipline easier as the day unfolds. The mind becomes quieter, less reactive, more deliberate. Comfort seeks immediate pleasure, but dawn trains patience and long vision. Over time, this rewires desire itself, so you want what strengthens you. The hours gained are not just extra time, they are higher quality moments, free from rush and noise. Life begins to feel intentional rather than accidental. By choosing dawn repeatedly, you align yourself with the warrior ethic of responsibility and honor. You stop waiting for life to change and start shaping it daily, one early morning at a time, through deliberate, uncompromising action. This is how ordinary days transform into disciplined lives, built deliberately, not accidentally, by those who choose effort first, every morning, again without fail. Discipline before desire is the law that separates the governed from the free. Desire is loud, impatient, and persuasive, promising comfort now in exchange for consequences later. Discipline is quiet, patient, and demanding, offering nothing in the moment but strength over time. The samurai understood this truth deeply. The blade does not follow impulse, it follows command. Each time you place discipline before desire, you assert rule over yourself. You refuse to be dragged by appetite, emotion, or craving. This is not denial of pleasure, but mastery of it. Desire without discipline creates chaos, but discipline without desire creates direction. In choosing discipline first, you decide that your future matters more than your current mood. The mind resists this order because it prefers ease, yet ease weakens judgment. Every small act of restraint becomes a brick in the fortress of character. You are not suppressing life, you are shaping it. By commanding yourself before the world attempts to command you, you become internally sovereign, calm in temptation, steady in uncertainty, and unmovable when distractions attack from every side, without warning or mercy, ever. Placing discipline before desire rewires the nervous system itself. The body learns that impulses are signals, not orders. Hunger, laziness, anger, pleasure, all become information rather than commands. This shift is power. Samurai train their minds to pause between urge and action, because that pause is where freedom lives. When you act immediately on desire, you shrink the space of choice. When you delay, evaluate, and decide, you expand it. Discipline strengthens this space until it becomes instinctive. You stop feeling controlled by urges because you no longer fear them. Desire loses its urgency when it realizes it will not be obeyed blindly. Over time, cravings soften, emotions stabilize, and reactions slow. This creates clarity in moments where others collapse into impulse. You begin to trust yourself under pressure, because you have proven that feelings do not dictate behavior. This inner order produces calm authority. You walk differently, speak differently, decide differently. Discipline becomes a form of self-respect, a declaration that your standards are higher than your appetites, and your long-term vision outweighs temporary relief, without hesitation or regret, ever. Discipline before desire also purifies ambition. Many people want greatness, but they also want comfort, validation, and ease, and these wants conflict. Discipline forces a choice. It asks which desire deserves obedience. The samurai chose honor over pleasure because honor endured when pleasure faded. When you put discipline first, your goals become clearer because distractions lose influence. You stop chasing everything and start committing to something. This focus multiplies effort. Energy once scattered across impulses becomes concentrated into progress. You no longer negotiate with yourself endlessly. Decisions become cleaner and faster. This reduces mental fatigue and emotional chaos. Discipline simplifies life by eliminating unnecessary options. It creates a narrow, powerful path instead of a wide, confusing one. Over time, desire itself changes shape. You begin to desire effort, challenge, and growth because they align with your disciplined identity. Pleasure is no longer the driver, but a byproduct. This inversion is transformative. Instead of being pulled forward by craving, you are pushed forward by principle. The result is consistency, and consistency is the true engine of mastery in any domain, without exception or shortcut, ever. Choosing discipline before desire also strengthens integrity, the alignment between thought, word, and action. Every time you follow through despite wanting to quit, you reinforce trust with yourself. Broken promises weaken identity, while kept promises harden it. Discipline ensures that your internal word carries weight. This internal reliability becomes a source of confidence that does not depend on outcomes or approval. You know who you are because you have tested yourself repeatedly and passed. Desire seeks immediate reward, but discipline seeks self-alignment. When alignment is strong, stress decreases because there is no inner conflict. You are not arguing with yourself constantly. The mind becomes quieter because decisions are pre-decided by principle. This inner silence is rare and powerful. It allows you to endure long efforts without emotional burnout. Samurai valued this stillness because it allowed clear perception in battle. In modern life, it allows clarity amid chaos. You stop reacting and start responding. Discipline becomes your default posture, protecting you from self-sabotage and regret before they ever take form or gain control again. Discipline before desire is ultimately an act of devotion to the person you are becoming. It is choosing future dignity over present indulgence. This choice, repeated daily, creates momentum that reshapes identity. You stop seeing discipline as restriction and start seeing it as liberation from compulsions. Desire no longer controls the steering wheel. It sits quietly in the back seat. This allows long-term plans to survive short-term discomfort. Life begins to feel intentional rather than impulsive. You are no longer surprised by your own actions because they align with your values. Discipline builds patience, and patience builds endurance. Together, they create resilience that does not depend on motivation. When motivation fades, discipline remains. This is why warriors trusted routine over emotion. By placing discipline first, you build a life that can withstand stress, temptation, and fatigue. You become predictable to yourself and formidable to circumstances. This is the quiet strength of self-command, forged daily by choosing what is right over what is easy, and honoring the path over the pleasure every single time without compromise. Rituals create power because repetition with intention transforms ordinary actions into sources of strength. A ritual is not a habit done mindlessly, it is a chosen act, performed with awareness and respect. Samurai did not rely on luck or mood. They relied on rituals to anchor their spirit before battle. When you repeat a ritual daily, you tell your nervous system that order exists, that chaos will not rule you. The mind finds safety in structure, and from that safety emerges focus. Power is born when effort becomes automatic and decision fatigue disappears. Rituals remove hesitation by pre-deciding action. You do not ask whether you will train, reflect, or prepare. The ritual answers for you. This consistency creates momentum, and momentum compounds into authority over yourself. Each ritualized action becomes a signal to the mind. It is time to become disciplined. Over time, these signals reshape identity. You stop seeing yourself as someone trying to improve and start seeing yourself as someone who lives by code. This is the beginning of inner power, forged quietly through repeated intentional acts that shape behavior long before willpower is tested or temptation appears without warning. Rituals also conserve mental energy by reducing internal conflict. When actions are ritualized, they no longer require negotiation. Samurai sharpened their blades the same way each time, not because variety was forbidden, but because certainty breeds calm. In modern life, chaos drains strength through constant choice. Rituals act as rails that guide behavior forward without friction. This frees the mind for higher-level thinking, creativity, and strategy. Instead of fighting yourself every day, you move smoothly through pre-established patterns of excellence. The power here is subtle but immense. Emotional fluctuations lose influence because the ritual remains unchanged. Whether you feel motivated or exhausted, the ritual proceeds. This trains emotional independence. You learn that feelings are weather, not commands. Over weeks and months, this builds resilience. You stop collapsing when motivation fades because the structure carries you forward. Rituals become an external spine when internal resolve weakens. This is how consistency outlives inspiration and how ordinary people access extraordinary endurance without burning out or relying on fragile emotional states to drive disciplined action daily. Rituals create power by linking the physical body to the inner world. When you move your body in a deliberate sequence, your mind follows. Samurai understood that posture, breath, and movement influence spirit. A ritual grounds intention into flesh. Lighting a candle, breathing deeply, standing still, writing a single sentence. These acts may seem small, but they anchor the mind into the present. Presence is power. A scattered mind leaks energy, while a centered mind concentrates it. Rituals act as gateways into focus, marking the transition from distraction to discipline. Over time, the body learns these transitions. The moment the ritual begins, resistance weakens. This conditioning turns effort into flow. The ritual becomes a psychological trigger that unlocks concentration. This is why athletes, warriors, and monks all rely on ritual. It is a shortcut into the state of readiness. Power is not always forceful. Often it is quiet alignment. When body and mind move together through ritual, action becomes clean, decisive, and free of unnecessary struggle or hesitation. Rituals also create meaning, and meaning fuels endurance. Without meaning, effort feels empty and collapses under pressure. A ritual frames action as something sacred rather than mechanical. Samurai bowed before training because respect sharpened intention. When you treat your rituals with reverence, you elevate daily effort above boredom and routine. This transforms discipline from punishment into purpose. You are no longer forcing yourself. You are honoring a commitment. Meaning turns repetition into devotion. This devotion builds emotional resilience because it connects effort to identity. You are not just exercising, working, or planning, you are becoming. Rituals remind you why you endure discomfort. They anchor long-term vision into short-term action. On difficult days, the ritual carries meaning when motivation is absent. It whispers continuity when the mind seeks escape. Over time, this meaning accumulates into pride and self-respect. You begin to value yourself differently because you honor your process. Power grows not from intensity alone, but from sustained commitment, infused with purpose and respect for the path you walk daily. Rituals create power by shaping time itself. When days are unstructured, time slips away unnoticed. Rituals carve clear edges into the day, turning time into a tool rather than an enemy. Morning rituals set direction, evening rituals create closure, and transitional rituals protect focus. This structure reduces anxiety because the mind knows what comes next. Predictability creates stability, and stability allows intensity without collapse. Over time, rituals turn chaos into rhythm. Life begins to feel deliberate instead of reactive. You stop drifting between tasks and start moving with intent. This rhythm builds confidence because progress becomes visible and repeatable. You are no longer hoping for good days. You are creating them. Power emerges from this reliability. When you trust your rituals, you trust yourself. That trust becomes unshakable under stress. No matter what the world demands, your rituals remain intact, preserving your center. This is the quiet, disciplined power of a life built on ritual. Steady, resilient, and forged through deliberate repetition that turns ordinary days into controlled, purposeful motion. To steel the mind daily is to accept that thought, like metal, is either hardened by pressure or weakened by neglect. The mind left untouched rusts quickly, becoming reactive, scattered, and fragile. Samurai understood that battles were won long before swords met. In the quiet discipline of mental conditioning, each day presents friction, discomfort, boredom, fear, doubt, and these are not obstacles, but the fire. When you deliberately expose your mind to controlled hardship, you teach it endurance. Reading when distracted, focusing when tired, choosing silence over impulse. These are the strikes of the hammer. Mental strength is not built through intensity alone, but through consistency. Daily effort trains the mind to stay present under strain. Over time, resistance becomes familiar rather than frightening. You stop avoiding difficulty and start using it. The mind learns that pressure does not equal danger. This shift creates calm authority. You are no longer hijacked by emotion or overwhelmed by stress. Steeling the mind daily transforms chaos into training and turns ordinary challenges into tools for sharpening clarity, patience, and resolve before the day ever tests your composure publicly. Daily mental discipline teaches command over attention, the most valuable currency of modern life. Distraction weakens the mind by fragmenting focus, while discipline strengthens it by narrowing awareness. Samurai practiced stillness to master attention, knowing that a scattered mind loses before action begins. When you steel the mind daily, you deliberately practice directing attention rather than surrendering it. This may take the form of meditation, deep work, journaling, or silent observation, but the purpose remains the same: control. Each session is a reminder that you choose where your mind rests. This builds resistance to external manipulation. Noise loses power, urgency fades, and clarity emerges. Over time, attention becomes steadier, allowing deeper thinking and faster recovery from interruption. Emotional reactions shorten because awareness catches them early. This creates space between stimulus and response, where wisdom lives. The mind becomes less reactive and more deliberate. Instead of being dragged through the day by notifications and impulses, you move through it with intention. This mastery of attention compounds daily, creating a mental edge that others feel but cannot explain. Stealing the mind daily also forges emotional resilience. Emotions are energy, but unmanaged energy becomes chaos. The disciplined mind does not suppress emotion, it observes and directs it. Samurai train to remain calm in fear because panic clouds judgment. Daily mental training teaches you to sit with discomfort without escaping it. Anxiety, frustration, and doubt become experiences rather than commands. This emotional literacy strengthens endurance. You learn that feelings rise and fall without destroying you. This knowledge breeds courage. When difficult emotions arise, you do not rush to numb them. You remain present. This presence dissolves their power. Over time, emotional volatility decreases. You respond instead of react. This steadiness becomes a foundation for leadership, decision-making, and self-respect. Others may crumble under pressure, but you remain intact because you have rehearsed inner stability daily. Emotional control is not coldness, it is clarity. By steeling the mind, you create a stable inner climate that supports sustained effort and clear judgment, even when circumstances turn hostile or unpredictable without warning. Daily mental discipline sharpens perception, allowing you to see reality without distortion. An undisciplined mind exaggerates threats, invents excuses, and avoids responsibility. Stealing the mind strips illusion away. Samurai valued clear seeing because misjudgment meant death. When you train the mind daily, you practice honesty with yourself. You notice patterns, weaknesses, and self-deception without flinching. This clarity is uncomfortable at first, but it is liberating. You stop lying to yourself about effort, progress, and intention. This creates alignment between thought and action. The mind becomes a tool rather than an adversary. Decisions become cleaner because they are based on reality, not fantasy. This clarity reduces anxiety, which often stems from uncertainty and avoidance. When you see clearly, you act decisively. Over time, this builds confidence, rooted in truth rather than hope. You trust your judgment because it has been tested daily through reflection and discipline. Stealing the mind removes emotional fog and reveals the path forward, even when the path is difficult or demands sacrifice you once resisted. To steal the mind daily is to build an identity anchored in effort rather than outcome. You stop measuring yourself by success alone and start measuring yourself by discipline. This shift is powerful because outcomes fluctuate, but effort remains under your control. Samurai train daily regardless of war or peace, understanding that readiness is a lifestyle. When you commit to daily mental training, you reinforce the belief that strength is earned continuously. This creates internal stability. Failure no longer destroys confidence because confidence comes from preparation, not results. You recover faster because the process remains intact. Each day becomes a vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, the mind grows quieter, stronger, and more obedient. Doubt still appears, but it no longer dominates. Fear still exists, but it no longer paralyzes. You move forward with measured calm, guided by discipline rather than impulse. This is the quiet steel of the trained mind, flexible, resilient, and unbreakable under sustained pressure. To honor your time is to recognize it as the most unforgiving currency you possess. Money can be regained, status can be rebuilt, but time, once spent, is gone without negotiation. Samurai treated time with reverence because they understood life was finite and uncertain. Every moment carried weight. When you honor your time, you stop treating hours casually and start treating them as sacred ground. This shift changes behavior immediately. Distractions feel heavier, procrastination feels costly, and meaningless activity becomes uncomfortable. You begin to feel responsibility toward each day, not in a frantic way, but in a deliberate one. Time becomes something you protect rather than consume. This protection is an act of self-respect. You no longer give your attention to everything that asks for it. Instead, you choose where your life flows. Honoring time means understanding that how you spend your hours is how you build your character. Each wasted block weakens momentum, while each intentional block strengthens direction. This awareness sharpens discipline and replaces vague urgency with calm commitment to purposeful action. Honoring your time requires boundaries, and boundaries demand courage. Saying no to distractions means disappointing something or someone, including parts of yourself that seek escape. Samurai valued restraint because it preserved strength for battle. In modern life, the battle is focus. When you honor your time, you draw clear lines around what matters. This may mean limiting entertainment, reducing social noise, or stepping away from environments that drain attention. These choices are uncomfortable at first because they expose emptiness where distraction once lived. Yet within that emptiness lies clarity. Time without noise reveals priorities. You begin to notice what deserves effort and what merely consumes it. This discernment creates calm authority. You are no longer rushed because your time is aligned with intention. Boundaries prevent resentment because your energy is not scattered. Instead of reacting to demands, you act according to values. This internal alignment reduces stress and increases effectiveness. Honoring time is not about rigid control, but about intelligent allocation. You place your hours where they can compound into growth rather than evaporate into forgettable moments. When you honor your time, you also honor your future self. Every disciplined hour is a gift sent forward. Every wasted hour, a debt that must be paid later through regret or pressure. Samurai prepared daily because they respected the warrior they would need to be tomorrow. In the same way, honoring time means acting today in service of who you are becoming. This long view stabilizes decision-making. Short-term pleasure loses its grip when you feel connected to future consequences. You begin to see patterns across days instead of isolated moments. This perspective turns patience into a strength. You are less tempted by urgency because you trust the process of accumulation. Time becomes an ally rather than an enemy. Each focused session builds on the last, creating visible progress that reinforces discipline. This feedback loop strengthens motivation naturally. You no longer chase productivity tricks, you rely on consistency. Honoring time teaches you to work deeply rather than constantly. Depth multiplies impact, while busyness dilutes it. This shift transforms effort into meaningful advancement rather than endless motion without direction. Honoring your time also demands presence. Time wasted is often not lost to inactivity but to divided attention. Samurai trained with full awareness because half presence meant death. When you honor your time, you bring full attention to the task in front of you. This focus increases quality and reduces duration. You finish faster because you are fully there. Multitasking fades as you realize it fractures effort. Presence restores dignity to work, rest, and conversation. When you work, you work. When you rest without guilt. This clarity eliminates internal conflict. You are no longer half working and half escaping. This mental cleanliness reduces fatigue because energy is not leaked through indecision. Presence deepens satisfaction even in difficult tasks because engagement creates meaning. Over time, this habit strengthens concentration and reduces anxiety. You stop feeling behind because you are no longer scattered. Honoring time means living each block fully rather than surviving it. This fullness creates a sense of control that stabilizes emotions and sharpens judgment throughout the day. To honor your time is to live with urgency without panic. It is the understanding that life is short, but meaning is built slowly. Samurai accepted impermanence, mujo, and allowed it to sharpen their focus rather than paralyze them. When you honor time, you act decisively without rushing. You prioritize what moves the needle and release what does not. This simplicity creates freedom. Life feels lighter because unnecessary commitments fall away. You begin to respect your own calendar as a reflection of your values. Each day becomes a deliberate expression of who you are. This consistency builds trust with yourself and earns quiet confidence. You are no longer haunted by the feeling of wasted days because your actions align with intention. Honoring time does not require perfection, only awareness and correction. Each day offers a chance to realign. This practice transforms time from a source of anxiety into a source of strength, shaping a life that is lived consciously rather than spent carelessly. To suffer with purpose is to understand that pain without meaning breaks the spirit, but pain with direction forges it. Samurai did not avoid suffering. They gave it a reason. Every bruise, every repetition, every moment of exhaustion was accepted as payment toward mastery. When suffering is chosen rather than imposed, it transforms from punishment into training. Purpose gives pain a spine. Without it, discomfort feels cruel and endless. With it, discomfort becomes temporary and instructional. When you suffer with purpose, you stop asking why this hurts and start asking what this builds. This shift changes everything. The mind stops resisting reality and starts cooperating with it. You no longer see hardship as a sign to quit, but as confirmation that growth is underway. Purpose organizes pain, giving it boundaries and direction. Instead of drowning in discomfort, you move through it. This creates psychological endurance. You learn that suffering does not last forever, but quitting lasts far longer. Purpose anchors you when motivation disappears. It reminds you that this pain was invited, chosen, and accepted in service of becoming stronger than the version of you that once avoided it. Suffering with purpose also cleanses intention. When effort becomes painful, false reasons fall away. Only what truly matters survives sustained discomfort. Samurai trained until weakness revealed itself, because only then could it be corrected. Purpose acts as a filter, separating vanity from commitment. If the pain feels unbearable, it often means the reason is shallow. When the reason is deep, the pain becomes tolerable, even honorable. Purpose turns endurance into devotion. You stop counting minutes and start counting meaning. This depth stabilizes effort. You are no longer dependent on praise or results to continue. The reason is internal, and internal reasons endure. Purpose also protects against bitterness. Without it, suffering breeds resentment. With it, suffering breeds pride. You know why you are doing this, and that knowledge reframes the experience. Each difficult moment becomes proof of alignment, rather than evidence of failure. This alignment reduces internal conflict. You are not fighting yourself. You are carrying yourself forward. Purpose transforms suffering into a deliberate act of self-respect, rather than an accident of circumstance. To suffer with purpose is to train emotional resilience. Purpose does not remove pain, it gives you a place to stand within it. Samurai remained calm under strain because their suffering had context. When you attach meaning to hardship, emotions become steadier. Panic fades because you are not lost. You know where you are going, even if the path hurts. This clarity reduces fear. Fear thrives in uncertainty, but purpose narrows focus. You stop imagining escape and start executing endurance. Over time, this builds emotional toughness. You become less reactive because pain no longer surprises you. You expected it. You prepared for it. This preparation creates confidence under pressure. Others collapse because they did not assign meaning to their struggle. You remain upright because you did. Purpose also shortens recovery. When hardship ends, you do not feel empty because the effort fed your identity. You grow from it instead of being drained by it. Emotional strength is not the absence of pain. It is the ability to carry pain without losing direction. Purpose is what allows that strength to develop consistently. Suffering with purpose also refines discipline by eliminating negotiation. When the reason is clear, excuses lose power. Samurai did not debate whether training was uncomfortable. Discomfort was assumed. Purpose removes surprise and replaces it with acceptance. You stop asking if you should continue and start asking how to continue well. This mindset increases efficiency. Energy is no longer wasted on resistance. All effort flows forward. Purpose also creates humility. You accept that progress requires sacrifice and that ease is not the goal. This humility keeps ego in check. You are not special for suffering. You are responsible for enduring. This responsibility creates maturity. You stop dramatizing hardship and start managing it. Over time, this builds reliability. You become someone who can be trusted with difficult tasks because you do not collapse when conditions worsen. Purpose turns suffering into a stabilizing force rather than a destabilizing one. It keeps you grounded, focused, and moving even when comfort is unavailable and relief feels distant. To suffer with purpose is to align pain with identity. You are not suffering randomly, you are suffering as part of a chosen path. This choice restores agency. Even when circumstances are harsh, purpose reminds you that your response is yours. Samurai accepted Mujo, impermanence, and used it to sharpen commitment rather than surrender to despair. Purpose gives suffering a beginning and an end. It becomes a chapter, not the whole story. This perspective protects hope without relying on fantasy. You endure because you know this phase builds capacity for the next. Over time, suffering becomes less frightening because it has proven useful. You trust it to teach rather than destroy. This trust deepens courage. You no longer flee difficulty. You step into it with awareness. Purpose does not make suffering easy, but it makes it meaningful. And meaningful suffering strengthens character in ways comfort never can. Shaping a person who does not break when tested, but stands firmer because they chose to carry pain with intention rather than waste it. Silence builds strength because it removes excess and leaves only what is essential. In silence, there is no performance, no validation, no distraction to hide behind. Samurai valued silence because it revealed truth. When the noise fades, the mind is forced to confront itself. Thoughts rise, discomfort surfaces, and weaknesses announce their presence. This exposure is not weakness, it is the beginning of strength. Noise numbs awareness, while silence sharpens it. When you choose silence, you step out of reaction and into observation. You stop feeding the need to respond to everything. This restraint conserves energy. Power grows when energy is not wasted on unnecessary expression. Silence teaches patience, and patience steadies the nervous system. Over time, the mind learns to remain calm without stimulation. This calm becomes a foundation for disciplined action. Silence does not make you passive, it makes you deliberate. Words become fewer but heavier. Decisions become slower but cleaner. Strength begins to form where impulsive expression once lived. Silence builds strength by training emotional control. When you stop reacting verbally, you create space between feeling and action. Samurai practiced restraint because emotional outbursts revealed weakness to the enemy. In modern life, constant expression leaks power. Speaking too much disperses thought before it matures. Silence allows emotion to settle and clarity to rise. Anger cools, fear quiets, and desire loses urgency when not immediately expressed. This internal pause is powerful. It prevents regret and preserves dignity. Over time, silence conditions the mind to withstand emotional waves without being swept away. You learn that not every thought deserves a voice. This discernment strengthens judgment. Others may rush to speak, defend, or explain. You remain composed, listening fully before acting. This composure commands respect without demanding it. Emotional strength grows when expression is chosen rather than automatic. Silence becomes a shield, protecting you from self-sabotage and unnecessary conflict, while reinforcing self-mastery in moments that test restraint. Silence also builds strength by sharpening perception. When you are not speaking, you are observing. Samurai listened more than they spoke, because awareness is a weapon. Silence heightens sensitivity to detail, tone, and intention. You begin to notice patterns others miss because they are busy projecting themselves outward. This awareness improves decision-making. You gather more information before committing to action. Silence removes ego from the moment, allowing reality to present itself clearly. In conversation, silence invites others to reveal more than they intended. In solitude, it reveals your own habits of thought. This self-awareness is foundational strength. You cannot correct what you cannot see. Silence exposes distractions, fears, and attachments without judgment. Over time, this awareness creates alignment. Anger. This awareness creates alignment. You act from understanding rather than assumption. This reduces mistakes and increases precision. Strength is not always force. Often it is accuracy. Silence sharpens accuracy by removing noise that distorts perception. Silence builds strength by restoring energy. Constant input exhausts the mind. Words, opinions, arguments, and explanations drain focus. Samurai preserved energy for moments that mattered. Silence is a form of recovery without sleep. It allows the nervous system to reset. When you sit in silence, mental chatter slows and tension releases. This restoration increases endurance. You become capable of sustained effort because your energy is not constantly leaking outward. Silence also deepens concentration. The mind learns to stay with one thing longer. This focus strengthens willpower naturally. You do not force attention, you cultivate it through stillness. Over time, silence becomes comfortable rather than awkward. You stop fearing it because you no longer associate it with emptiness. Instead, it feels like control. Energy returns to its source. This internal reservoir makes action more effective when it is time to move. Silence prepares you to act with full force rather than scattered effort. Silence builds strength by grounding identity internally rather than externally. When you speak less, you rely less on approval. Your sense of self becomes quieter but firmer. Samurai did not announce their strength. They embodied it. Silence removes the need to prove, explain, or justify. This detachment from validation is liberating. You stop measuring yourself through reaction and begin measuring yourself through action. This shift builds confidence rooted in self-trust. Silence allows you to hear your own standards clearly. Over time, this inner voice becomes stronger than external noise. You are less shaken by criticism and less inflated by praise. Stability replaces volatility. Silence teaches you that power does not need constant expression. It needs alignment. When your inner world is ordered, outer action becomes decisive. This is the strength silence builds. Not loud, not fragile, but steady, controlled, and unmistakable when it finally speaks, through action rather than words. Consistency is the blade that cuts through chaos and doubt, forging progress one deliberate strike at a time. Just as a samurai's sword is not forged in a single moment, but through countless hours of folding, hammering, and tempering, greatness is not achieved through sporadic bursts of effort, but through steady, unwavering commitment. Each day you show up, no matter how small the action, you add another layer of strength to your discipline. Consistency carves a path through resistance, turning fleeting motivation into lasting habit. Without it, even the sharpest intention dulls quickly, leaving potential wasted and dreams fragmented. But when you wield consistency like a finely honed blade, every repetition compounds, every effort stacks, and momentum builds invisibly beneath the surface until it becomes unstoppable. This steady force separates those who stumble from those who endure. Consistency does not demand perfection, it demands presence. It requires showing up, even when the fire dims and desire wanes, because it knows that true power lives in the cumulative, day-by-day sharpening of will and skill. Consistency is also the architect of identity. The samurai did not become warriors overnight. Their character was etched by daily rituals and relentless training. Similarly, your actions form the foundation of who you are. Each consistent choice declares your priorities louder than words ever could. Over time, these choices synchronize with your values, embedding discipline into your very being. This alignment eliminates internal conflict and replaces it with clarity. When consistency is your blade, you stop questioning whether you are capable or deserving. You become the person who perseveres simply because that is who you have decided to be. This identity shields you from doubt and distraction because it is built on proof, not hope. The mind craves certainty, and consistency provides it by creating an unbroken chain of effort. Break one link, and the chain weakens. Maintain each link, and it becomes a fortress that supports you through trials and setbacks. Beyond shaping identity, consistency refines skill and accelerates growth. Like the swordsmith who tempers steel with precise repetition, you sharpen your abilities by practicing regularly and purposefully. Irregular effort leads to uneven progress, but consistent action creates exponential improvement. Neural pathways strengthen, habits solidify, and performance becomes fluid. Consistency allows you to measure your growth not by dramatic leaps, but by steady, reliable gain. This regularity builds confidence because it removes the unpredictability of success. You trust the process because it is constant. The samurai knew that mastery was not a destination but a daily journey. They accepted that some days would feel slow or difficult, yet they persisted because they understood the long-term value of persistence. In your own life, consistency becomes the engine of expertise, turning raw potential into polished capability through patient, repetitive effort. Consistency also guards against the pitfalls of motivation's fickle nature. Motivation is a flame that flickers with mood, circumstance, and external validation. When motivation fades, many abandon their goals, losing momentum and self-trust. Consistency, however, does not rely on emotion. It is a commitment to action, regardless of feeling. This creates a reliable rhythm that outlasts temporary enthusiasm. By choosing consistency, you insulate yourself from the highs and lows that derail progress. You learn to act out of discipline and habit, rather than waiting for inspiration. This steadiness builds resilience because it reduces the emotional roller coaster that often accompanies change. The samurai trained even when tired, hungry, or discouraged, because they recognized that discipline was the foundation of lasting strength. When consistency becomes your blade, it cuts through doubt and distraction, enabling you to stay on course even when the path is difficult or unseen. Finally, consistency cultivates trust, both with yourself and others. When you are consistent, you demonstrate reliability. You become someone who can be counted on to follow through, to honor commitments, and to maintain standards. This trust builds confidence internally and reputation externally. The samurai's word was his bond, because it was forged through consistent action and integrity. Similarly, your consistent efforts create a reputation of discipline and seriousness that opens doors and builds respect. Trust reduces friction in all areas of life, creating smoother relationships and clearer communication. Internally, trust strengthens self-esteem and reduces anxiety, because you know you will not betray your own goals. This inner security becomes a source of motivation itself, fueling further consistency. The blade of consistency is not just a tool, it is a way of being that shapes your future, cuts through excuses, and carves a legacy defined by relentless, steady effort, day after day. To master the self first is to acknowledge that before conquering the outside world, the greatest battle lies within. The samurai knew that victory over others is hollow if the mind, body, and spirit are not disciplined and aligned. Mastery begins with awareness, recognizing your fears, weaknesses, and impulses without judgment. This self-acknowledge is the foundation upon which all strength is built. When you master yourself, you command your emotions instead of being commanded by them. You choose your reactions rather than reacting blindly. This control transforms chaos into clarity and confusion into direction. Mastering the self requires relentless honesty and courage because it demands facing uncomfortable truths and refusing to hide behind excuses. It is a lifelong commitment to refining character through daily practice, reflection, and discipline. The warrior's journey starts inside, where the fiercest enemies dwell: doubt, distraction, and temptation. By conquering these internal foes first, you build a fortress of resilience that no external challenge can breach. Mastery of the self creates freedom because it breaks the chains of impulse, fear, and habit that bind most people, allowing you to move through life with deliberate power and unwavering purpose. Mastering the self first also means cultivating emotional intelligence. Samurai train to remain calm under pressure, understanding that emotions unchecked lead to poor decisions and defeat. When you develop emotional mastery, you learn to observe feelings without becoming them. Anger becomes information rather than an outburst. Fear becomes a signal rather than paralysis. This separation creates space for choice. You respond instead of react. Emotional discipline is not suppression, but regulation, allowing you to engage fully with life without losing control. Daily practices like meditation, journaling, or mindful breathing strengthen this skill by increasing awareness of emotional patterns. Over time, you build a steady inner climate that supports resilience and clarity even in chaos. Mastery of the self includes mastering the emotional landscape, turning turbulence into calm rivers that carry you forward rather than obstacles that stop you. This inner balance is essential for sustained focus, effective leadership, and meaningful relationships. Physical mastery is another pillar of mastering the self first. The samurai's body was a weapon, trained to respond instantly and endure hardship without complaint. You cannot fully master the self without caring for the body that carries your mind and spirit. Physical discipline builds willpower, stamina, and presence. It grounds mental strength in tangible reality. When you commit to consistent physical training, nutrition, and rest, you honor the temple that houses your identity. This care creates energy and reduces vulnerability to stress and illness. Physical mastery also deepens the mind-body connection, sharpening awareness and control over impulses. Movement becomes meditation, and the body becomes an ally rather than a liability. The samurai's grace and power emerge from this harmony. Mastery of the self is holistic. It includes nurturing every aspect of your being with respect and rigor so you can respond to life's demands fully prepared and aligned. Mastering the self first requires discipline in thought as well as action. The mind is a battlefield where habits, beliefs, and narratives shape reality. Samurai practiced mental discipline through focus, study, and reflection, understanding that an undisciplined mind leads to defeat before the fight begins. When you master your thoughts, you control the story you tell yourself about what is possible. Negative beliefs become obstacles only if you allow them to. Mastery involves rewiring patterns that limit growth and adopting mental habits that empower. This includes setting clear intentions, practicing gratitude, and cultivating resilience through perspective. Reflection sharpens insight, allowing you to learn from failure and avoid repeating mistakes. Discipline in thought transforms confusion into strategy and doubt into confidence. Master the mind first, and your actions become deliberate, effective, and aligned with your highest goals. This inner mastery is the true source of power, because it precedes and enables every external success. Ultimately, to master the self first is to embrace responsibility for your entire life experience. The samurai did not blame fate, fortune, or enemies for their circumstances. They accepted that their power came from within. When you commit to self-mastery, you stop waiting for conditions to be perfect or for external approval. You take ownership of your habits, choices, and reactions. This ownership is liberating because it shifts the locus of control inward. Instead of being buffeted by circumstances, you become the captain of your ship. Challenges become opportunities to test and deepen mastery rather than reasons to quit. Mastering the self builds unshakable confidence because it roots identity in action and integrity, not chance or circumstance. This foundation supports resilience, creativity, and sustained progress. Like the samurai who carried discipline as armor and clarity as sword, mastering yourself first equips you to face life's battles with calm strength and unwavering purpose, shaping your destiny rather than being shaped by it. To live with warrior intent is to move through life with purpose sharpened like a blade, cutting through distraction and hesitation. The samurai embodied this focus, not merely acting, but acting with clear, unwavering resolve. Warrior intent is not reckless aggression. It is deliberate, conscious direction fueled by deep commitment. It demands clarity about what matters most and the courage to pursue it relentlessly. When you live with warrior intent, every decision, every action becomes an expression of your highest values and goals. You reject aimlessness and embrace focus. This intent transforms ordinary moments into opportunities for growth and mastery. It transforms distraction into discipline. The warrior's path is not always easy, but it is chosen. Living with intent means that you do not drift through life reacting to circumstances, but steer your course with steady hands, even when storms arise. This purpose fuels endurance and sharpens resilience, because you know why you fight and what you fight for. Living with warrior intent requires presence in every moment. The samurai understood that battle is won or lost in the present, not in past regrets or future fears. To embody warrior intent is to be fully engaged now, with attention undivided and spirit unshaken. This presence intensifies effort and deepens experience. You are not distracted by noise or tempted by escape because your focus is anchored in immediate action, aligned with long-term vision. Presence creates flow, a state where effort feels effortless and clarity guides movement. It also cultivates awareness of threats and opportunities, allowing swift, precise responses. Warrior intent sharpens perception and increases adaptability, so you remain fluid yet unyielding. This grounded engagement reduces regret because you give each moment your full strength and commitment. Presence is the foundation upon which warrior intent rests. It is the living breath of purposeful action that turns intention into reality. Warrior intent demands courage to face uncertainty and adversity without flinching. The samurai embraced mujo, the impermanence of all things, knowing that fear and resistance weaken resolve. To live with warrior intent is to accept discomfort, risk, and sacrifice as necessary parts of the path. It means stepping forward, even when the outcome is unknown or unfavorable. This courage is not absence of fear, but mastery of it. Mastery of it. When fear arises, warrior intent anchors you to your purpose, allowing you to act despite anxiety. This boldness creates momentum because hesitation fades and action takes its place. The warrior's mind is steady and unshaken because it trusts the process, embraces challenge, and refuses to surrender to doubt. Courage born from warrior intent transforms obstacles into training grounds and failure into feedback. You become unstoppable, not because you avoid struggle, but because you move through it with resolve that cannot be broken. Living with warrior intent shapes every relationship and interaction. The samurai valued honor and respect, knowing that strength is not just physical, but moral. Warrior intent extends beyond personal goals to how you engage with others. It calls for integrity, humility, and loyalty. When you act with warrior intent, you communicate clearly and authentically. Your presence commands respect because it is rooted in genuine conviction rather than posturing. You listen as much as you speak and protect what matters with fierce dedication. This intent builds trust and deepens connection, creating alliances that support your journey. Relationships become purposeful, free from distraction or superficiality. Warrior intent does not isolate, but anchors you in community, reminding you that strength is multiplied when shared. Through honorable action and clear purpose, you embody the warrior, not just in solitude but in the world. Ultimately, to live with warrior intent is to embody mastery over distraction, doubt, and fear. It is a commitment to clarity, presence, courage, and integrity that transforms how you move through life. Like the samurai whose every move carried meaning and precision, your actions become expressions of deliberate power. This intent aligns your mind, body, and spirit into a unified force capable of facing any challenge without losing direction. Living with warrior intent is not a state you achieve once, but a daily choice to sharpen focus and deepen resolve. It is the way of forging a life that honors your highest potential and faces uncertainty with unwavering strength, turning every moment into a step on the path of mastery and purpose. As we stand together at the edge of this journey, remember that the path of the daily samurai routine is not paved with ease, but with relentless commitment and fierce intention. You have within you the power to forge a spirit unbreakable, sharpened by discipline and tempered by purpose. The challenges ahead will test you, but these trials are the very fires that shape steel. Embrace them with courage, knowing each moment of struggle brings you closer to mastery over yourself and your life. This is not a fleeting quest fueled by fleeting motivation, but a lifelong dedication to living with honor, focus, and warrior intent. You are not alone on this path. You belong to a brotherhood and sisterhood of warriors. Those who rise daily to carve order from chaos, who choose growth over comfort, who wield consistency as their blade. Commit now, comment X, to declare your readiness, subscribe to join this community of forged spirits, and stand proud as one who refuses to waste another day. The 4 pillars we have explored: dawn over comfort, discipline before desire, rituals create power, and steel the mind daily, are your foundation. Now take them, embody them, and let them guide you as you forge your destiny with unyielding strength and unshakable purpose. The time is now.